Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee.
You sure? It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is great to see everyone. We had a fantastic discussion last night on the Table Talk channel about Arcane Season 2. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. I thought we had it was great to have both Doug and Brianna back again, and they've agreed to come and talk about Arcane after all the releases for the next 2 weeks. We'll be doing that. We're going to talk about some older literature like I've been going through, but Arcane's out right now and everybody loves it. So we are talking about that right now. So good morning to everybody. Welcome to my home. Welcome to the office, and welcome to the morning grind. We got lots of people here. We talking about RPG design today. I've been looking at some of my notes and things like that about what's going on for about the past hour and a half. So I got some things to talk about. We've got James Bacon here. Good morning. We've got Micah. Good morning. Micah says blood sugar finally lowered enough to eat again. Well, that's good. So I may miss the start and then speed it up to catch up. But all right, we'll come. That's great. We will see you after that. Good morning, Druid and Fuzz. I decided I had long enough been down because of the U.S. election. Time to rise and shine again. Yes. Eventually, no matter what happens, no matter what side of whatever you're on, eventually you have to keep going again. Hey, good morning, Sable, the Titter Pig Rancher. Good morning. And BGD is even here. Good morning. Good morning. And Tomocrat. Good morning. Nathaniel. Man, we have a great crew this morning. And Brett. Good morning. And Robert. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. So, all right. It is time to start working on some RPG design again. And so I was rewatching. An advantage of doing a lot of this is this live is that because it's then on YouTube, I was listening to myself talk with all of you guys, going back and rewatching some of the live streams this morning, and I was looking at all of our notes sitting here. And I have thoughts on that because I was like, okay, so where were we on this part right here? Okay, well, man, that needs to be talked about and brought up to speed. So that's what we're going to be doing today. But there are a couple of things that we should say. So more people have got to be coming in on more people are coming in on the cultist side of things. All of my attention has really been about the relaunch of the cultists. And we have even more subscribers since the last time we talked over there. I think we have basically 100 more subscribers since Sunday. Yeah, but last we talked was on Sunday. So I think we had just crossed the 5,000 mark on Saturday. I think by the time that Sunday morning rolled around, we had like 5,030 subscribers. Well, as of right now, we've got 5,136. 5,130. So we've had basically 100 new people come in. I have got to finish a video. No, I don't have to finish a video. I have to make a video to go out on that channel that I think will help get people on the email signups that I just haven't been able to do. But I'm going to be here all day, and this afternoon we're going to be meeting in the coffee shop. So that's one thing. I need to go ahead and have that material shot so that I can edit in the coffee shop and get that going. But 5,136, I think that's pretty big. And then also, I think that the branding is paying off. I went through an extensive section of time where I was going through and doing a whole bunch of branding on rebranding all the different channels. And Table Talk, I just got an email from YouTube, and for some reason it doesn't email me about all of the channels. I don't know why. Maybe you got to cross some kind of threshold to get an email from them. But Table Talk got 111 new subscribers last month and 6,251 total views. So I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to check out what people were watching on Table Talk. But I think that's pretty incredible to have last month in October gotten 6,251 views on the Table Talk channel. I'm going to go find them. I mean, maybe people were rewatching the stuff that we had talked about Arcane. I don't know. But I think that is definitely an advantage of the having multiple channels with better brands. So when people find something they like, I mean, apparently they're watching. So there we go. I think we're experiencing some success. Maybe we are getting some air or something like that. But thank you all for being here. Robert says, thank you again for showing the game. My demo stream was successful too. Looking for a way to open to public testing. Yeah, there seems like there's a whole lot of interest. You're very welcome. I enjoyed trying it out with you. Okay, so that is what's going on. Is there anything else that needs to be said? I put my contacts in, but I'm still having an eye problem. If I have to take my contacts out, oh well. I just have to do it. Let's see. I think that's all the major notes right now. Hey, let's breathe and sip. I've got the Witch's Brew mug this morning. All right, so let's do a breathe and sip. 2 deep breaths. Deep inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. So let's go. It's the mental health portion of the show. And sip. Hey, Michael. Good morning, Michael. All right, we have sipped. Okay, so where were we? Oh, by the way, also, I had some comments. I think some people were following the Faded Edge and on the live streams and were watching through. So I did go to the Faded Edge live stream, or excuse me, playlist, the live stream playlist, and I resorted it so that it starts with the oldest, and that if you watch the playlist through, I think I sorted it for everybody and that's for me, but I sorted it so that you start with the oldest one and you're going through. So if you're somebody who is new and is looking at RPG design and you want to take a look at that, there's that playlist, and there's also the Cultist playlist where we went through and built that RPG. But I think at least for this RPG, yes, somebody mentioned, hey, this playlist isn't all that useful. Loved the material, but said the playlist wasn't that useful because the playlist plays in reverse chronological order. So I believe I fixed that. Hey, good morning, Mike. Good morning. Okay, so last time I'll bring this up. Not me, that's Dice Scripts. Okay. So as it turns out, I was going through all the notes, like I said, for about an hour and a half this morning. And I was thinking, so what is it that we are trying to create here? And also listening to some of this, because we got the adventure game, which I really want to do. And then we have the, although it's probably digital right now, doing a whole big box game is not in the works at the moment. But it was still hammer out the rules and be able to create it digitally and stuff like that. But as I was playing Hero Quest with the nephews, because I really want to be able to play the games with them as well, as I was playing the games with the Hero Quest with the nephews on Monday. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to take my contacts. Just 1 second. Just give me just 1 second. I'm going to go on break. Just 1 second. Let's do a Yeti hug break.
Oh, it's time for a Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break. Everybody go hug yo Yeti and show yo Yeti some love.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. That was an early Yeti hug break, but I had to get the contacts out. Okay, so I was completely distracted as I was sitting here trying to talk. So feeling much better now. Okay, all right. So I was playing Hero Quest with the nephews on, was that Sunday? No, it was Monday. I was playing with them on Monday. Had a great time. They played Quest 10, the quest, the Castle of Mystery, which is a fantastic quest, very different from all other quests, and one that actually I had never played before, even though there have been decades of playing Hero Quest. I just never remember ever playing that one, and I would because it's so unique. My mother was playing Zargon during the initial game, and I think she skipped around, which is fine. Skipped around, and we never played that one, so I get to experience it for the first time with them, and with them as heroes and me as Zargon. And I told them there are only 4 quests left in this book. And of course, my brother was like, oh my God, what are you ever going to play? And of course, because he knows that I've got stacks and stacks of Hero Quest over here. Like, what are you ever going to play once the initial Hero Quest is gone? Well, there's a lot that I would like to be able to play with them, including some RPGs. I said, hey, I'd like to play Dungeons and Dragons with them. The oldest nephew I got to play Dungeons and Dragons with. But now it's been like a couple of years ago. I'd like for them to be able to play something that I created. And so that was in the back of my mind as well. That's like, hey, what kind of system could you create that they could play with and go on an adventure with? Whether that's a full kind of role-playing game or whether that's also a kind of adventure game. But I was also thinking about that in terms of, what is an adult game? Does it really have to do with the complexity of the mechanics? I mean, after you get across a certain threshold, we're not talking about Candyland here. But then the sophistication, I think, of the story takes over, and not necessarily the mechanics. So I was looking at everything that we got, and I was watching the last episode that we had done, where I think we came to a really good conclusion for at least, to go forward with as far as the dice mechanic goes. We went into a lot of depth on dice mechanics, and I think basically came up with a playable solution in the last one. And what we were doing was we were creating it ended up being a D20. We were creating custom D20 dice that are going to be color coded because they've got different number distributions on them depending on your level of proficiency. And then you grab one die. You grab one die and roll it to resolve the action, and that die has all of the math in it for all the math in it that we were trying to talk about here when we were talking about really the pure role-playing game section of this, which is what I want to go back and look at, because I'm like, okay, how do you take what I think now is kind of a complex system right here and get it all over into pick up that die of this color and roll it, and inside the rolling of that die, all of that math is packed. I mean, if that makes sense. Because I would really like for both of these systems to basically be run the same. I mean, what's the difference between a 10,000 word Faded Edge role-playing light and a adventure game like we've been studying quite a bit? Well, one of the differences between those two things is freedom of action. In the adventure game, you are going to have a much more limited number of actions that you can take. And I had, we started to talk about that. Let me just see over here in these notes. We were talking about what's the difference between actions when you are in combat, meaning like when there's a monster on the board, and then when there is not a monster on the board. And okay, your actions are much more constrained when you're under threat than when you are not under threat. Like when you're under attack, you can move, you can attack, you can cast spells that can be cast in a second or 2 seconds or things like that. You can interact with objects that are that only require like pushing a button or throwing a lever. You can't decipher a tome or something like that. But then even when you go to your exploration activities, it's a longer list of things, but still a defined list of things. So when you're talking about the adventure game, you're talking about what can you do? What are your actions? This is a very short and defined list. Well, it's a very defined list. I would say that, you don't want it to be like 12 or 15 actions, but 6 actions, 6 or 8, something like that works. And then you have to worry about how to adjudicate those actions on the tabletop. Whereas in a genuine role-playing environment, you're specifying how you resolve an action. And the game master and the players will adjudicate what type of action that is. So, being that the adventure game is a specification of the tabletop game, and eventually, I think James Bacon, we'll have to continue. We'll have to talk about our your what is an RPG, and like is Hero Quest or an adventure game something like an RPG? I think it's something to talk about. But in this sense, the adventure game is a specification of the greater role-playing game, because the greater role-playing game can effectively encompass any kind of action that the players and the game master, because there will be a game master. The adventure game doesn't necessarily have to have a game master. But the adventure game just has to adjudicate a defined subsection of actions. Does that make sense? Maybe that was nothing but a gigantic ramble. I don't know. Michael Connor says, for mechanically simple but potentially robust systems for kids, it's the Traveler Sword of Cephas. I don't know that one. BGD says, fast character generation is relative. I think you should be able to create a character in 5 minutes, but you should have options and operationalize any particular character concept in different ways. Yeah. So fast character generation is definitely something we've talked about. And actually, character generation is an issue, is specifically an issue that I was going to be sitting here talking about, and I was thinking about this morning. Because, okay, in the adventure game, I've got, well, actually in an RPG, I have no problem passing out characters to people either. Like, hey, all right, let's play this game. It's a one shot. We're going to have fun over 2 to 3 hours. Here's some characters for you to be. I don't have any problem with that. But that's more also expected in kind of the adventure game environment. Hey, here's what we're playing, and here are the characters. You pick one. The issue that I'm having, which is what I'm about to talk about, is how do you create a character in 5 minutes? Let's say you are starting from zero, and I was going to play a game. Even with the nephews. All right, I'm going to play a game with the nephews, and you got to create a character. And we had talked about card-based character creation. How do you get from the card-based character creation to the colored dice? What's on them that allows you to easily compute, okay, I am an elf and a ranger. Okay, well, then I should be really good at shooting a bow. How do I compute if I've got both the elf and ranger card that whenever I shoot something with a bow, it should be this color die? Michael says, or the open D6 system. That the D6 is that open D6? There was a D6 system that isn't that published by Runehammer? Some kind of D6 system that was published by Runehammer that I was like, yeah, I can totally see this playing with the nephews. But if they can play it, anybody can play it. And then I think what the difference is the sophistication of the story. Like I don't think that what I need to do, if this makes sense, is say, what's the difference between the game for adults and the game for children? It's like the sophistication of the math that you have to do, or the complexity of the calculations. Because yes, okay, some of us are fine with doing that, especially if you're doing a simulationist style game, that you're going to have a lot more mathematical calculation. But on the other hand, what do you want the difference between the game to be played? What do you want the difference between those two games to be? If they're played with younger people or they're played with older people, do you want it to be the level of computation and mathematics involved, or do you want to have it the themes of the story and the kinds of things that it addresses? And I realize that's not completely binary, because in something like Hero Quest, okay, we said we could perhaps use some more sophistication. But on the other hand, in an RPG environment, maybe it's the sophistication of the storytelling that's taking place. So BGD's, let's see, where did I go? There's a lot of comments coming in. Or yes, right, that was a D6 system, yes. And we did look at that with Star Wars. I think character generation, the mechanical manifestation of each player's avatar within the game milieu, is a big part of what gives a given RPG system its feel. I think character generation, the mechanical manifestation of each player's avatar within the game's milieu, is a big part of what gives an RPG system its feel. Well, it probably does. Oh, right. Thank you. It's easy D6 that is Runehammer. So open D6 is the adjustment of the old Star Wars game. Oh no, is it tiny? No. Yes, DM Scotty's right. That's what I was thinking of. That's right. Easy D6. Okay, so here was my issue. Here was what I was going back to thinking about, because I was also trying to think about these things in tandem. The 10,000 word RPG system that could serve as a core as an RPG system, an adventure game which is a specification of that system. It's a concretization of that system. But I would really like for them to be able to use the same action resolution system. The difference is that the RPG, you're trying to be able to, you're trying to have a system which could potentially resolve any action. And in the adventure game, you have a specification of actions. And so, hey, what if I want to do something other than these actions? Well, you can't. This is just the actions that you can do, and the game is built around that. And as I was reading my notes this morning, I think that we have come to I think that this is a very complex kind of system that we had over here. And I think that the simplification of everything that I was trying to do over here with this RPG into a single die roll of a colored die that builds in all of your players' bonuses is a good idea, because the simplification, I think, is an important part of this. There's a lot here in this system, but I'm still wondering about the computations. Maybe this is a good time. So it seems like the game is based on, and I think this was a theory that we were going on, that the game is based on its action resolution system. What's going to happen during the game is you could start with, hey, let's make characters. You can come up with a system to make really neat characters, and we can specify everything about them. But why would you do a character creation system if you don't have your action system specified? You want to know, like, how are we going to resolve actions in this game? And then you build a character creation system off of that, so that you know that what the characters, so when you're creating the character, that the things that are on your character sheet are actually going to matter, right? So going back to the actions at large, this is where we were. So when we were talking about just genuine, just, kind of pure kind of style role playing, we said this was what we were doing. We were saying that a correctly specified, do I need to increase the size of this? Let me see if I can. Okay, that's probably a bit more readable for you. So the basic game mechanic in Faded Edge is the action resolution system. And also, by the way, one reason to have these things share a action resolution system is because then you can go back and forth between them. Long time ago, we were talking about the holy grail of different RPGs is the ability to play on different levels of gaming seamlessly, be able to flow between different levels of gaming. Could you take an RPG character and play an adventure game? Like, why not? Why not? If they're based on kind of the same system, that could be easy. It could be easy. If they're not, then it's difficult or impossible, and people aren't going to do it. But the basic game mechanic in Faded Edge is the action resolution system. A correctly specified action must include the outcome the character is trying to bring about and how the character will attempt to bring it about. That's something that's very concretized in an adventure game situation, right? You don't have to worry about that, because every time, like in Hero Quest or in Dragon Strike, when a character is undertakes an action and has that very short action list they can take, you're concretizing what type of outcome that character is trying to bring about and how that character is trying to bring it about. So I think that's a specification of that. If you search for treasure, you search for treasure in Hero Quest. I'm going to search this room for treasure. What is that? The outcome that I'm trying to bring about is discovering any treasure in the room by searching around for it. And, not looking into a crystal ball or something like that. But okay, we're going to go physically toss this room, and the outcome will be that we get any treasure out of it. That seems like a specified action. If somebody just says, well, I'm going to go look under the table. Okay, so that's the difference between saying I'm going to go look under the table versus I'm going to go search for treasure. So in the adventure game, it's very clear that I'm searching for treasure, if that's an action. Or, we talked about whether that's just search or not or whatever. But in Hero Quest, the adventure game, I'm searching for treasure. That is a very specific action where you're trying to bring about a certain outcome based on, in a certain way. and then you roll or you adjudicate that. To resolve this action, use the following procedure. But in a role-playing game, you're much more likely to have somebody say, well, I'm going to go look under the table. Now, there might be something under the table for you to see, but that's not in this specification in action. The game master determines if the action is impossible, automatic, or only possibly successful. If it's only possibly successful, the player must make a check to determine the success or failure of the action. When a check is necessary, the GM determines one ability: strength, dexterity, intelligence, or presence. That was kind of the four main stats we were working off of. And we were also saying that those stats need to be able to govern every action that you can possibly take in the world. Which is kind of 5e like, the way that it's supposed to be played rather than the way that it is played. That, see if you've got a skill. You know, some games are skill based, but like, what is it in the world that allows me to govern everything? We talked a lot about those abilities. How strong am I? How well can I move my body? How intelligent am I? Or how basically charismatic I am. And then that can be modified by a skill, but that allows everyone to be able to at least attempt every action, even though that action may be determined to be impossible or automatic. But if every action needs to be governed by the thinking, at least here, was that every action here needs to be governed by a small number of abilities. Let's see. We got the Titter Pig Rancher, member for 17 months. Thank you very much. Sable says, not sure if it's entirely on topic, but haven't ever asked either. What's the objective of your system that sets it apart from other systems? That is a great question. So when I was thinking about just the RPG and I was thinking about the narrative side of things, I came very close to really liking Fate. But I think that it does some things that, but I think that it's too narrative. Well, actually, there was a word that came up in the comments section on in some of our videos that were about RPG design. And what was this word that somebody used? Somebody used imagination. It was something like imaginative load or something like that. When we have talked about, it's from the rules perspective, it's very easy to write something that is, hey, if somebody rolls the die and they don't get quite high enough, they can be partially successful. But what does partially successful mean in any, in an infinite number of contexts that could come up in an RPG game? This person in the comments, I'm gonna have to look that back up to find out exactly what it was. But I was like, that's a, I'll use the word imaginative load on them right now. That the softer you write your rules, the more potential imaginative load that is going to be placed on the characters at the table as they play. All the players, whether that's the players or the game master. And it seems like I have read through this, and when we were playing something like Fate, there was a lot of it that we liked. But yes, in those cases, the rules are soft enough that they're easy to write, but that puts a lot of cognitive, imaginative load on players at the table. And I want to take that off. Cognitive load? What did I say? Did I say something else? Right. You're right. So there is a lot that I like about it. And I wanted a game that we could sit down and you could play in a one shot. In fact, I think that there was some place that, someplace I had written down game objectives. So we have talked about game objectives before, but so my initial idea was, hey, we need something that is, less narrative. It okay, so it increases participant agency. Yes. Oh, okay. So we were asking. Okay, I was afraid that I had said something like we were asking if the term you remember was cognitive load, not imaginative load. I don't know. It was based on your recollection. Yeah, I don't remember. It could have been cognitive load. There was something about no. I think he was using in the comments. I don't remember who this was. I don't remember. I don't think this person has been on the live streams. They were just commenting on the videos. But it was something about the amount of imagination that has to be required. Because cognitive load could be, to me, that's like a heavily mathematical game could have a very heavy cognitive load. A lot of things you've got to remember and things like that. This was specifically the amount of, spontaneous imagination that somebody has to come up with in order to resolve something. So Anon says even Evil Hat has moved on to focusing on that's the Blades in the Dark base system. But anyway, so I had a series of objectives there. Yeah, because cognitive load can be anything you need to keep track of at one time, and this was specifically the amount of imagination that you had to bring to the table. Like, where are you trying to? Where do you want the players to bring their imagination? Well, and their cognitive abilities in general. I don't remember exactly where we were. But that's a fantastic, that's fantastic. So that's right. And also that, I don't want something we talked about, and I think we basically have resolved that. Time to go to play testing with the dice. That I don't want something real swingy. I want something that your players' choices are very much an important part of what makes success or actions succeed or fail. Some people then go, well, they don't use dice or all our random mechanics. I'm talking about no randomness, but I'm talking about really controlling this. Fate rules seem to come down to the flip of a coin, sometimes many coins. It didn't have enough crunch when we were looking for it. When we needed something to happen with Fate. Okay, wait a minute. We're doing this like a grenade situation or something. We were like, okay, we need some kind of guidance here about how to handle this situation. The things that I like about Fate are that, let's skip that for the moment. I think we've had that discussion before. If we need to come back to it, we can. But oddly, there's a lot that I like about Fate and about GURPS, and they do both. And they approach game systems very differently. And yet sometimes, even on Reddit or other places, you'll see people talk about, now, wait a minute, is there something we can blend here between GURPS and Fate? The Serapig Rancher says, players' choices make a serious impact on how things resolve. Is also at the center of the system. I batted off of Bacon a couple of times. We're calling it the Cascade system for now. Oh, you guys have been working on a system? That's neat. So anyway, then we had said if a character has a skill that is applicable to the action being undertaken, add the skill's proficiency bonus to the ability score. A maximum of 1 skill may be used per check. The character's ability score plus a skill bonus, when applicable, is the character's base competence at completing the action. Okay, so if you, I don't know, as an example, have skill proficiency bonus in archery, and archery is based off of dexterity. If it is, then okay, ordinarily it'd be dexterity, but I also am proficient as an archer, so I would add my dexterity and my archer together, and I would get a base competence at shooting that arrow. That was the general idea. No, you don't have to be an archer to shoot the arrow. You'll be going off of dexterity. But if you are an archer, then you have an additional bonus based off of that. We were talking about a target number. The game master determines the action's difficulty. So in that case, like you wouldn't ever make an archery roll. you would make a dexterity roll modified by archery. The game master determines the action's difficulty. Difficulties are associated with a number called the target. The player must obtain on the check for the target to be successful. Basic stuff there. Static obstacles, such as a pit to be jumped or a wall to be climbed, will have a set target depending on how great an obstacle is intended to be present. If the character's action is directly opposed by another, such as when trying to attack another person or get around them to move through a doorway, that action's target is determined by that character's related resistance. So that's active versus passive resistance to some type of action. Basic stuff there. But we had talked about how, kind of like how with armor class in Dungeons and Dragons, a character has a resistance to physical attack. That why don't they have a resistance to all different things that can affect them? So they have the ability to not only resist physical attack, but they have the ability to resist social manipulation, intellectual manipulation, the ability to get by somebody through a door by movement of their body or attempt to resist somebody by strength. So not only are those ways that you can influence the world, but there are ways to stop the world from influencing you. See, then we got to this part right here. The game master determines if the action being taken is under pressure or not.
Under pressure.
If not, add 5 to the character's base competence. This number is the character's normal expected competence for completing the action. Under pressure, the player will not automatically receive the additional 5. And this is where I think we were building this out, but I think it's getting too complicated at this point. And it's better just to roll this into the roll of a die. But you see where I was going here. If you are not under pressure, add 5 to the character's base competence. This number is the character's normal expected competence for completing the action. Under pressure, the player will not automatically receive the bonus of 5. Instead, you'll be rolling, and this is when we still were generating a number based on 1 to 5, based on edge dice, and roll and add the result to the base competence. And this was because, think of somebody if you're trying to roll to create a weapon or you're trying to create a magic weapon and your weaponsmith is in his workshop and there's no particular time constraint on what you're doing, then you're going to have blacksmithing will be based or weaponsmithing will be based off of one of these abilities, okay? And then you're going to have a weaponsmithing skill. So you're going to add the weaponsmithing skill to the ability. And then if you're not under pressure to do this, it doesn't matter how long you take. You've got plenty of materials that you can reuse if something goes wrong. You can start over if something's not right. You can take some extra time to get something right. You're not under pressure, so you're going to be better at that. So go ahead and we were saying go ahead and take 5. And so you're not going to roll. You're just going to say my ability to create a task is my ability plus my skill plus my not under pressure bonus. If you are under pressure, or we had talked about also using the term adventuring conditions, then you're going to have to roll for that. And the idea was that the edge dice would generate a number between 0 and 5 in a stepped distribution. So it's unlikely to roll a 5. It's much more likely to roll a 0. You're less likely to roll a 5. But if you're not under pressure, you go ahead and get the 5 bonus. And we were doing it that way because players like to, I think better game design is to add something rather than take it away. You could say, ordinarily, I'm always as good as I am with this 5, but if I'm under pressure, I might not do as well. And so I'm going to roll dice and I'm going to subtract it from that number. So the number, because the number on what is the number on your character sheet? If I'm trying to do some weaponsmithing, what's the number on my character sheet? the maximum I can achieve when there is no one around and I'm not under a time constraint and I can take all of my time and I have enough, extra resources and nothing's particularly bothering me. Or should that be on my character sheet? Arguably, yes. Arguably, yes. Except for if you put that number on your character sheet and then all of a sudden you become under stress, then you might not perform as well. And then that involves the subtraction of numbers rather than the addition of numbers. And as it seems like we're always told, it's easier for people to add numbers than to subtract numbers. And then also, people don't like having things taken away from them. Oh, I'm ordinarily a 20 in this, but now I have to roll to see how much I've got to subtract. People don't like that. So that's why we had ability plus skill. And then if you're not under pressure, add 5. If you are, roll for it. Well, I would say, yeah, we've looked at quite a few of these. I feel like I have asked this before. What systems? It is Fate and it is GURPS, but also 5th edition. But I would say there's a lot of Fate and GURPS in here. Those are probably the two systems. Now, I do really like conditions, and of course, the Pathfinder has a lot of conditions in it. I mean, we've looked at a whole bunch of different games on this channel. But it seems like the ones that often come up are a blend of Fate and GURPS. Really. So a player and a GM determine if there are any situations, conditions, circumstances, or traits that make this attempt at the action easier or harder. While not under pressure, positive or negative circumstances provide 2 or -2, respectively. In adventuring conditions, so I kind of I need to change this up. Like, what is this called? Being under pressure, or is it called adventuring conditions? In adventuring conditions, a bonus die generating roll of 0 to 2, or a penalty die generating 0 to -2 will be rolled for each positive or negative circumstance, respectively. No more than 3 positive or negative circumstances may be applied to a single check. Other possible positive or negative situations are disregarded. Their results are added to the check. So ability plus skill, like in an adventuring condition, ability plus skill plus an edge die plus any bonuses or penalties. Bonus and penalty dies cancel each other out. For example, one negative circumstance or one positive circumstance result in rolling either a bonus or a penalty die. Therefore, a player will never roll both bonus and penalty dice at the same time. In non-adventuring conditions, if the character's normal expected competence plus or minus any situational modifiers is equal to or more than the action's target, the action is successful. In adventuring conditions, if the target's base competence plus the roll of the edge dice plus or minus the rolls of the bonus or penalty dice, then you are successful. Successful actions bring about the desired outcome. Otherwise, the action fails, the desired outcome does not occur, and the character may suffer consequences. So on one level, that sounds fine, but on the other hand, I still think I think it's a lot. And we incorporated basically a lot of what was in here into being able to roll dice. That we end up with dice in front of us at the table that are different colors, that have different numbers on them depending on how good we are at things. And that keeps you from ever basically having to do all of that all of this math, because the math ends up being built into the dice. You may not remember that. I can talk more about that. Michael says, why not consider extra time or non-pressure situations as an edge? Okay, let's see if that helps us, because it might. It might. This is just my notes anyway. So you could say, if I understand what you're saying, right, Michael? is saying, could you that having unlimited time or for practical purposes, you're not under any time constraint, you're not under any particular resource constraint, are advantages. And I think you possibly could, yes. I mean, possibly, yes. If you are rolling 3 dice that are 0 to 2, like in this case, I think we're moving away from this, but in this case, if you're rolling dice that have 0 to 2 on them, like a d6, 2 zeros, 2 ones, and 2 twos, that's close enough to a +5 that maybe it makes no difference, as I'm looking at it right here. So you could say, unlimited time. I'm not constrained by time. That's a bonus die. I'm not constrained by resources. If I screw up this piece of iron, I've got a whole bunch of other sheets of iron sitting over there. I'll just go grab another one. I think potentially you could, yes. Michael says, keeps chance in and allows for crits either way. But what I was looking at this morning was I was saying, okay, I really like this idea of having a bunch of different dice. You get me? Because this is rolling a lot. Now, I mean, some people like chucking a lot of dice, and that's fine. And at times I do too. This would be a dice pool. So the edge dice. What was this incarnation? I think you're having to roll. The idea here was the idea here was also kind of weird. It was working, because I realized if you've got dice, so in this case, those edge dice would be 0 to 5. They would be, I believe they were 6-sided dice, and they were labeled 0 to 5. And you rolled 2 of them, and you picked the lowest one. You're also picking the lowest number that you roll instead of the highest number. I don't know if people are going to be happy with that or not, but it worked. It was very elegant. Like, oh, so you have a 6-sided die. It's labeled 0 to 5. That generates a number between 0 and 5. And the distribution of making the zeros much more likely than the 5s in a predictable pattern that's descending is if you roll 2 of those and then you pick the lowest die. So if you're picking the lowest die there, and then you're also rolling the bonus die, you're rolling a lot of dice. And we realized that we could wrap all of those dice up into a single die roll. So that way, you know, I would prefer it if you roll a bunch, if you roll the die, you look at it and you know exactly what the result is. Not you roll 4 dice and then, okay, now this, and you have to like do a computation in the dice tray. So if that one gets ignored, this one, it was my skill is 10, that's +3, and then plus, did I get it? It sure would be nice if it were obvious when you roll the die. Whether or not you're successful. Because I do like the roll of the die. Yes, I did it. No, I did not do it. Or, oh, yeah, critical hit or whatever. If you roll the dice and then, okay, I rolled these dice and then, okay, now let me compute. I think that's not quite as fun, especially if I'm thinking about playing with the nephews. So we have a way to do that. Hey, RPG Exile. Good to see you. What was I saying here? I mean, so where was I going with that? Okay, so what we did is we found basically a way to do that, to reduce the number of dice that are being rolled, but still preserves the same dice distribution as doing all of this. But now, with regard to character creation, this is coming back around to that. We'll go for a few more minutes. This is what BGD was talking about, I think. If we've got all these dice that are color coded to basically do what we're doing right here, and in an adventure game situation, basically you might as well say that all of your rolls are under pressure, right? So in adventuring conditions, you never have to worry about that. Unless, I suppose, unless you're doing the go to town thing like they did in Warhammer Quest or things like that. That maybe rolls you make out there, you don't have to make under pressure. Maybe those are not under pressure. But in an adventure game, probably everything that you're rolling is. So you've got all of that built into the dice. But if you're just passing out characters, then it's pretty easy to build. If you build the characters and you're like, here are your core stats. In an adventure game, you know exactly what type of actions you're going to roll because you've got a defined list of actions that you can take, right? So you know what roles, you know the complete universe of all roles that you might have to make. And so you can put those on a character sheet. And it would be great if they were on a character sheet and, it wasn't 30 different kinds of things. But, attack, defend, maybe, whatever, strength, whatever. And then it's got a picture of that die beside it with that particular color. Oh, you need to make that type of check. Roll this color die right here, and on the board or whatever, you can put the color variations of the dice. You understand how they relate to one another, which ones are better and which ones are worse. Do that in a gradation that people understand, and not in a random way. But how do I compute in an easy way if you're building a character? What color die do I grab in different situations? The adventure game is easy because you're passing out characters. The characters, the actions they can take is defined. So there could be a picture of that die sitting there on the character. You can pass out RPG characters as well, but there still needed to be a system behind the screen to determine how they were created. Does that make any sense? Did I make any sense as I was thinking that through? Because this system right here does have you adding up numbers, which is fine. I mean, numbers are easy to add. And in this case, the dice are always the same. The edge dice in this system were always the same. What was changing is your skill. But now we're saying we're particularly going to change what die you roll based on your skill. So it would be easy to say, this was easy to say, hey, I am an elf and I am a ranger. So I get +5 dexterity for being an elf. So my card, when I take the elf card, it says +5 dexterity. And then when I take the ranger card, it says +3 dexterity. So that means that I've got a dexterity of 8, assuming I'm looking at any other card that I've got. And I think you probably need to be able to create a character with 3 to 5 cards. What's your dexterity? It's the total of everything that says something about dexterity in your hand here that makes up your character. And you draft these cards. You could randomly deal these cards, but you could draft these cards. Everybody pick one they want. What kind of race do you want? What type of character class do you want, etc. So I'm looking at an 8, and then I would know if I need to. I got an 8 in dexterity on my cards here. So that means that when I make a dexterity roll, I roll the edge dice, and I could get up to a 13. That seems to work. But you're having to go through an extra step of computation to know how do I get from 5 plus 3 to, okay, that's actually just blue die or green die or whatever. or is trying to make both of these use the same action resolution system futile. Because I don't think you can add colors of dice. I don't think people will understand, oh, I get a yellow die for elf, and I get a blue die for ranger for dexterity, and that means I need to roll a dark green die. Like that isn't going to work. People aren't going to understand that. Micah said, or no, excuse me, this is Mike. Mike says, some time ago in Discord, I offered a dice system for this game when last we looked at it. Might take a look at that. There may be something to use there or not. Okay, we'll go back and take a look at that. Right, maybe the attributes are rated by the dice color rolled. Well, and that's the easiest way to do that if you specify that from the beginning. I mean, I think so. Maybe, yeah. I mean, yes. If you're not creating it, if you're not creating your own character and you're just receiving a character, you would see dexterity blue. Michael says, "Don't worry about color; just adds confusion." We're gonna run here in a moment. This is getting back into this kind of action, but here, no, I mean, so for example, this is kind of where we came with the was this it? I was rewatching our discussion. Well, okay, it was something similar to this. All right, let's take a D20 die. And the note was that this was possibly best with explosion. And in which case we would drop one of these 12s and we would add a 15 with explosion. That's where we were. So we were saying, okay, we're going to have 20-sided die. And so it happened to be 20-sided die. I had done a lot of D10s, and I thought that maybe this would be D10 based. But as it turns out, D20 seemed to work pretty well. So this might be for an average character. If you are average in whatever it is, dexterity, strength, intelligence, whatever, or you would roll a D20 with the following number distribution. 5 10s, 5 11s, 3 12s, 3 15s, 3 14s, and 2 14s and 2 15s, one of which has an explosion indicator on it. That you go and roll an explosion dice, you get something higher than that. Yes, your critical success. So an average character might get that. A poor character would therefore would have 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Okay. 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. 7, 7, 7. 8, 8, 8. 9, 9, 9. 10, 10, explosion. So those are both 20-sided die. And if you're deficient, then we would also be rolling a D20 die, but it would be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. 2, 2, 2. 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, exploding. So we've got this very specific distribution going on. So if we're looking at all these D20s on the table, how do I know which one to roll? Well, color coordinating them was what I had thought. That, if you're deficient, let's color that D20 red. That's sitting on the table. Color that one red. Color this one orange. The poor character rolls an orange die. The average character, maybe make that a yellow D20 that has those numbers on it. Then for the next up, we'll go good, which will start with the 15s, and continue that distribution, and we'll color that one light green, and then excellent will go up and even higher. We'll color that one dark green. So there's a color code to these as I'm looking at all of these, and that prevents you from having to this prevents you from having to do what we were just looking at and saying, I need to take my ability score, I need to add my skill, I need to add whatever my dice edge, and then I'm going to do a computation to the end and figure out whether or not I hit some particular number. This rolling a die like that builds all of that into one roll. And boy, that is elegant. I do like that. And plus you have some potential fun if you roll an explosion and you get to keep going and roll an explosion die and get something even higher. If the particular task, allows you to explode. So the dice system that we had sort of settled on did definitely simplify your action resolution. But now I would have to figure out some way to determine. I mean, the most direct and straightforward way, I suppose, would be you could arrange this on the cards when you're trying to design a character. That if you look at add up all of your dexterity, and your dexterity only gets to 10, then you get the orange die. A conversion between the number to what die you roll. Whereas if it gets up to 15, then you may roll the yellow die. Micah says, color also limits people's to dice specifically made for the system with these colors, while some might want other colors just with the right numbers on the faces. Well, yes, that's true. I really want pink sparkly dice, or purple sparkly dice. Can I please get a pink sparkly D20 that has this particular distribution on it so that I can use it to roll my, dexterity roll? If picking the lowest of multiple dice, it greatly increases the likelihood of rolling 0. Right, exactly. And that was the intention. So, the other, so what was the distribution? Oh yeah, so the distribution of well, I don't remember where that was. But but yes, the idea was that you should be more likely. That's why a bell curve didn't work. Because if you've got a base of 10, if your attribute plus your skill is 10, and then you get a die roll on top of that could have a distribution of between, of up to 5, that could give you an additional 5 on top of your attribute plus your skill. A bell curve or normal distribution for that random element doesn't work, because that would mean that someplace in the middle, like 2.5, is what you're adding. Shouldn't it be more likely that you are performing close to your base level of skill? I think it should. And then be less likely that you're reaching all the way up to the top. It seems if you've got the bell curve distribution, then it's unlikely that you are performing close to what your expected skill is. You're performing to something higher. And so if you roll two dice and take the lowest, then you're more likely to perform close to what your actual skill is and less likely. I'm not sure what that means. At that point, I would only ever want one edge. I mean, could you can't you build that into we've already looked at that. Maybe we did that. If we're rolling two, let me look over here because I've got some dice scripts for any dice. Let me bring this up. Then we'll give away some memberships and we will get out of here. But let me see. Let me bring up this table. Okay, so this was our table. Let me bring this up. Well, edge dice would always be rolled in pairs. The idea was they were always rolled in pairs. But if you've got here we go. So if I've got the output lowest one of 2 Ds with the numbers 0 to 5 on them. Hey, Charlie. Then I end up with a 30% chance of rolling a 0. So if my skill is 15, I could potentially get up to a 20 because I could roll a 5. But I'm probably going to be there at 15 or 16. There's a 19% chance I roll a 2, so we'd get a 17, 13.8% chance that I would roll a 18, 8.3% chance I'd roll a 19, and then 2.78% chance that I would roll a 5. Could you just build that out in a single die? Could you build that distribution out in a single die? Probably so. So let's see. Let's say if we're building it on a D20. So then the D20 would be a 0, 0, 0, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 6. The die would have 6 zeros on it. Can you see this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it would have 5 ones on it. This would allow everybody to roll the same die. It would have 4 2s on it. It would have 3 3s on it. It would have 2 4s on it. And then 1 5 on it. Okay, there. Now you're rolling. I mean, that's an approximation. That's an approximation. Hey, PH. That's an approximation, but that would do it. Is that 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. No, that's 21. Oh, that's our 21. We actually talked about that before. So what I would do then is I would remove one of our zeros. Make it 5 zeros, make it 5 ones, 4 2s, 3 3s, 4 4s, and a 5. Now there you go. Add your and remember that also in this case your modifiers are large. We came to the conclusion a long time ago that your modifiers should be large and your random range should be small. That's why our random range is only 0 to 5. So, you could have plus 10 in dexterity because of your dexterity, and then this is a skill, you get another plus 10, so you're looking at 20 and you can get to plus 5. But then if you want the explosion, then what you would do is this. Delete one of these 2s. People probably will not miss it. Make this another 5 and put an explosion marker on that 5. That should be 20, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yes. Rather than having to roll 2 dice and take the lowest, That's uncool. Roll 1d20 with that distribution, and it basically does the same thing. Did I just talk myself around in a circle? I probably did. I might have just talked myself around in a circle. So that instead of rolling the particular color dice, there will just be one type of edge die. It's a D20 that has these special markers, especially labeled. And that allows you to add things up. Does that work for an adventure system? Let's see. Micah says still both made at least. Oh yeah, PH and Charlie. So Mike says that seems to drastically alter the probabilities. Now this is so the edge dice would always be rolled in pairs. So that, like what Michael was talking about, you're not trying to get more or less edge dice. So the edge dice would, and when I was looking at a 0 to 5 on a 6-sided die, they were always rolled in pairs. It works but complicates it. Which one of those is more complicated? Which is the one that is most straightforward and works in the most number of circumstances for the most number of games? It's probably this. Now I'm thinking, Lord have mercy. How many times have I gone around in a circle? Now I'm thinking it's that. So it needs to be one die. The rolling 2 dice and taking the lowest, I don't think people are going to like. Rolling that die is that. Well, five is the 5. So if you you would just add 5. 5-star means you rolled an explosion. So not only did you get a 5, but now you also get to roll the exploding dice. So you're going up even higher. 5-star, 5 asterisk was intended to be explosion. Probably the most elegant solution is that's the die you always roll. As much as I liked the idea of having the different dice and you get to roll, you get to level up your die as you level up. Leveling up your number is probably the most elegant solution. PH says specific die for a system is a problem when you don't have it. There's more than one obstacle. It is one more obstacle for someone to try it. Calls you to have the die or use a table. Yeah, Fate. You do buy the Fate die, the Fate dice. You buy a pack of Fate dice. And the custom dice. I don't necessarily have a problem with that because we've been locked into. Okay, we're doing the standard polyhedral dice for a long time. But especially in a digital environment, you can make the dice whatever you need them to be. But yes, you do end up having to need to get a pack of special dice. Although you can simulate this system completely with ordinary D6s. But you're right. That's a disadvantage. If you're trying to use custom dice, in today's world, I'm like, hey, why aren't we using more custom dice? We can use custom dice to make the distribution exactly what we want rather than the very random kind of distribution that we've been talking about so much with classic dice. I don't know. It is something. It is something. That's something definitely to think about. And if you need, it's probably better to, so I was thinking you'd have to get a pack of dice that's a bunch of different colors that have the numbers on it. But, maybe this is probably better. Now I'm going back the other way. That's still a custom die, but just note the kind of like how in Dungeons and Dragons, you always reach for the D20 when you're making a tank. You just always reach for this die. Let me go over here to we got 20 people watching. This is a good time to give away some memberships because we're going to be in the coffee shop this afternoon.
Oh, you're a robot.
Well,
Yeah.
let me what? No, sorry. I need to head over to another tab. I'll press the button, and then this afternoon, wasn't it 1:00 Central? I think. I got to shoot a video, and I got to have that video stuff done so I can be editing stuff. This afternoon. But I'll invite everyone to the coffee shop. We can have up to 10 people in it. All right, gifting 5. Here we go. 5 memberships. Here we go. S. Becker, excellent. Binge Thinker, Seth Chapman, Sean Reagan, and Space Zeus. Oh, Space Zeus. All right, Space Zeus. There we go. All right, so I'll put out a post to the community on the community chat in YouTube. So, all right, no problem. Better with bacon. I think I just talked myself around in a gigantic circle. So we will see. Let's see. Micah says anyone who hasn't played a tabletop RPG before likely only knows D6s from games that use those. However, if they do know other dice, they know the standard 7 sets. Yeah. But and getting the standard 7 is not that big a deal in today's world. I mean, it's a thing, but it's not that big a thing. And if you can order it online and you need custom dice, that's also not all that gigantic a thing in today's world because most everybody can get to the internet on their phone and order the dice. Mike says, I think ideally that one die that would be rolled is likely a better approach than multiple multicolored dice, but that's just my surface thought without much more consideration of the details. Okay, I'm gonna go check that. I got to think more about that. So did the Titter Pig Rancher also come up with that? I'm going to take this time to echo Titter Pig RPG and endorse the Alien RPG stress mechanic. It's extremely effective. Just thought of something. I know we are already much deep into a specific path, but fate reminds me of chance, and a D100 represents that well. A long time ago, I always thought that if I were ever to do an RPG system, it would be based on a D100. Coming from MERP and everything, and percentage chances on a D20 and on a D100 rather seems to make so much sense, and they're easy to do in that way. But as it turns out, that was not the case. All right. Well, I have got to do some cleaning, and then I'm looking at my to-do list, and really, I've got to shoot some footage in order to edit it for a video. So, was it the case that let me go over into the coffee shop and make sure that I remember the schedule that we made up last time. Yeah, that's supposed to be in 2 hours. Informal work time and hangout time in the it means work time, but informal work time in the coffee shop starting at 1 p.m. Central. That's in 2 hours. I might not quite. I might be able to do it. I got to do some cleanup and take a shower and then shoot some videos. But yes, so all right. So, but I'm going to be in the coffee shop this afternoon. So I'll put that out to the YouTube members. So if you want to hang out, if you've got work to do that isn't like, well, you can walk off someplace else to do silent work, but if, like not silent, like, okay, we got to like write here. And so people can't be chatting. We'll do some casual, informal work time, but try to be productive in the coffee shop at 1 today. So, all right. It has been a pleasure talking to you. We'll continue this. Man. Yeah, we would love to see you there. So I'll send out the link to everybody. I think I just talked myself in a circle today. We'll see. All right. We'll continue this later on Sunday. Later, everybody, have a wonderful day. Go forth, be creative, be constructive, and be productive. I will see you later. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It was great talking to you.